let me just give the punchline to what you're about to tell us, which is that essentially there were a series of laws put in place that allowed the military to take over distribution of vaccines, and under a provision that does not allow any clinical trials and does not allow any safety testing. Mm-hmm. And that essentially the safety testing that we did see, which was conducted by the pharmaceutical industry, was kabuki theater put on for the public with no regulatory implications. And that's why they were able to take all these shortcuts, because it was meaningless theater. Now, I'm going to let you explain kind of the long version of that, but that's what people, that's kind of where we're going.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So it was, a pretend authorization by a regulatory agency, FDA, that has no regulatory mandate to regulate countermeasures in the United States. Remember, the FDA mandate is to regulate interstate commerce of medical products and food, right? So they are supposed to approve medical products, and these are not medical products, they're countermeasures. So that legal framework that's being utilized here is essentially pretending that this is a health event, and pretending that these are health products, while using the laws that actually put them into a totally different space legally, or pseudo-legally, I would say. So in addition to the emergency use authorization, they're using another set of laws that they're allowing them to contract under other transaction authorities. So Department of Defense, and they're not just overseeing the distribution of vaccines, by the way, that was sold to the public also. They're actually, the Department of Defense is fully in charge of the development of the clinical trials, of the execution of all this manufacturing and ordering of them, and distributing the money, and taking the possession of the delivered product and distributing it and owning it until it is injected into a person. So they're using other transaction authority, which is a way for the government to contract. Again, initially was very narrowly defined, given authority to NASA to do it in the 60s. Now 11 government agencies are using it, and DoD is a particular frequent user of this method.
Other transaction authority is called OTA.
OTA.
And it was essentially designed to allow the Pentagon to quickly buy weapons and weapons systems without paying attention to any existing regulatory authorities.
Yes.
What they've done is they've taken that authority and they've applied it to the vaccines. So they're purchasing the vaccines under OTA as a demonstration product. It's not a medical product. So it has, FDA has no authority over it. CDC has no authority over it. Military is actually manufacturing. They farm this out to hundreds of military contractors to do the manufacturing, to do the distribution, to do every aspect of it. And it's all a huge military operation. And the involvement of the drug companies is kind of window dressing, because the Pentagon did not want to put on the product, this is a Pentagon-made, Defense Department-made product. They essentially paid the pharmaceutical companies for their brand name, so people would think they were getting something from Pfizer or Modrena. But all of the back room and the distribution and manufacturing is done by the military, and the pharmaceutical companies were brought in to put their name on it and then to pretend to do clinical trials which have no legal significance.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. So OTA allows them not only, quickly order otherwise regulated products from regulated industry, private industry, without following the regulations. So that's critical. And that's why DoD loves it so much, because not only they can do that, they can also hide a lot of technology and IP from public, from each other, from other government branches. So it's perfect for them. And also they don't have to follow any federal procurement accounting rules. So that's why, you know, their stated budget is I remember for 800 billion, but they, you know, they can't find $8 trillion because they you know, they lost it and there's no accounting records for it. So that's how they do it. And they distribute humongous amounts of money through this and through their agency. So it's technically HHS agency, but it's called BARDA, Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. But BARDA kind of distributes the money. And also, they've all contracted. So these contracts became available, over 400 of them, for all countermeasures, not just vaccines, but vaccines got the largest chunk of money. So it's vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics, you know, even masks were included in that. So they gave them a huge chunk of money. The scope of work of these contracts, the primary scope of work is large scale manufacturing demonstration. Demonstration meaning fake. They also use words sometimes prototypes, sometimes, you know, it's prototype, demo, countermeasure, large scale manufacturing demonstration. Those are typical scope of work in these projects. And then they mention, you know, in a fluff language, they mention things like, oh, it's going to be subject to FDA rules and compliance. But then they also have these scope definition clauses where it says specifically out of scope, and we're not paying for it, we're not ordering it, is preclinical, clinical development, and manufacturing compliance. So that should be understood very clearly by everyone. Department of Defense gave humongous amounts of money to all these pharma companies for a demonstration, just a demonstration. And if you knew that you're going to inject your child with a Department of Defense prototype ordered under OTA and emergency use authorized, would you do it? I don't think so.